Welcome to the Coffee Break Show. I just want to let you know that today, David Allison is going to show you something so important for your business, for your connection with your clients, to grow more money and to grow more prospects. But first, as usual, we got to hear the music. See you in a minute. You're on the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel. This is the Coffee Break Show. Welcome to the show, David Allison. I am very excited about this conversation that we're going to have today. You know, actually, my executive producer, I was telling him before the show that our executive producer was so excited that he was going to be on and talked just absolutely flowers and roses about you and how great this show is going to be. And the topic today, I really want to dive into, because in my marketing skills that I've learned, demographics are everything. And you're kind of the contrarian for that. And today we're going to take his contrarian view and show you why it's more important to implement what he's going to tell you about today. Welcome to the show, David.
Thanks for having me over, and let's things get started properly. It's a coffee break show, so let's have some coffee. There we go.
All right, see, there you go. If you don't have coffee on the coffee break show, there's something. I've had some people have water or tea, and some people, Robert likes hot chocolate, but coffee is the main source of this show. So I'm glad you're having some with me. So I want to dive in right now. I just want to dive in and talk about how I learned, and we all have learned, to use demographics to target an audience or target a group of people. And why is that so old school, if you will, now? And let's talk about how you got into doing what you're doing.
We'll let the float plane go by.
Yeah, when this is live TV, this is what happens.
Yeah, exactly. There's the float plane. This is my garden out at the cottage. Okay, so there's two ways we can talk about this. There's the common sense way and there's the data way. We'll start with the common sense way. Let's talk about the United States. The work we've done is global, but we'll just talk about the United States. There's about roughly 80 million millennials in the United States of America. Anybody who tries to tell me that they're all like this, or they are all going to do that, or they all prefer this, there's 80 million of them. How can that possibly be? It's just nonsensical. Mm-hmm. And then you start saying, okay, so the millennials are all like this, like that. Well, women, they're all like this. They're all like that.
Yeah, those are fighting words for everybody, isn't it?
People who earn $100,000 a year or more, they're all like this. They're all like that. If you're married, you're like this. You're like, but you know what we do? We layer all those things on top of each other and say, women who are millennials, who are married and earn $100,000 a year, I know exactly what they're all about. And I'm going to use that as a target audience. And I'm going to go and start spending money to try and talk to them, because stereotyping, I can say, I'm going to make some stuff up. Millennials, they're like this. Women are like that. So if you layer them on top, somehow we sound smart in a boardroom, and we got all of these things we know about our target audience. So clearly we know our target audience. Common sense just doesn't work. So now the data way. We've done 750,000 surveys around the world now in 152 languages. And we've built this global database of what everybody cares about, what their values are, their wants, their needs, their expectations from life. It's more accurate than you need for a PhD from Harvard. And we can look at those different demographic labels and say, okay, well, let's see, how similar are millennials to each other? In other words, like, how targetable are they? How similar are women? How similar are people who earn $100,000 a year or more? Let's see if there's any validity to this thing we've been doing for decades in every business and organization all over the world. Well, if you average them all out, say all this data we've collected, 436 variables in our data set. If you average them out from across those labels, on average, people within any demographic label, they resemble each other about 10.5% of the time.
Whoa, that's very little in my opinion.
Tiny. That means if you target a bunch of millennials, based on what you think you know about millennials, you've got about a 10.5% chance of getting it right. And that's only if you're perfect with everything you do, which you won't be. You'll be like maybe 8%, 7% would be a really good number to get there. And so then when we layer these on top, all these different labels, women who are millennials who are in $100,000 a year, that's 10.5, 10.5, 10.5. That's just a bigger group of people who agree with each other about 10.5% of the time. And then we go and spend $1 million and we go, well, we know who got this. And then you think about it for a moment in marketing. If we get a 3 or 4% response rate to something.
Yeah, conversion rate. Yep.
Amazing. That's why we're using this flawed information to try and understand who people are instead of what we should be using demographics for, which is just one thing. It tells us what people are, not who they are, just what they are, which is still important. We need to know. I always use reading glasses because I wear them.
So do I.
Yeah, there's a demographic reality around who's going to buy reading glasses, right?
That's right.
So just because you have that demographic sorted out doesn't mean you know who those people are. All you know, they're a certain demographic. So you know those women who are millennials or earn $100,000 a year and are married. What do we know about them? We know that they're women, that they're earn $100,000 a year, that they're millennials and they're married. End of story. That's all we know.
That's what we know. That's it.
Yeah.
4 pieces of data. Doesn't say what they're going to buy, what their interests are. Oh, brilliant. I love the way you just define that so clearly because we rely on data so much and we don't realize it's like throwing cash to get a 3% return of a 10% audience. And that's so interesting. It's so backwards when you say it like that. It's so backwards that we think like that.
And if you look at all the organizations out there that are doing this, that spend all their money based on demographic profiling, it's trillions and trillions of dollars a year that are being spent on faulty data that has no basis.
No relevance.
Now, it used to. The reason we do this, way back when, like I'm talking, we're all living in caves, way back when. We had to look at each other and go, are these people going to hurt me? Or are they coming over for a cup of coffee? Or like we had to make snap judgments looking at people coming over towards our cave or even our little village in like 1600s in France. You know, if some people were coming towards us, are they friend or foe? We had to make snap judgments based on what we could see on outward facing characteristics. But then along came this little thing called technology and changed the way we live and what we know and how we can move through the days. And so, frankly, nobody acts their age anymore. Nobody is their gender. Just because you're a man doesn't mean you can't enjoy gardening or whatever. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean you don't want to work in a machine shop or be in the armed forces. I mean,
or ride motorcycles.
Ride motorcycles, drive a tank. I mean, everything is up. We can do anything we want these days. We don't have to live by the rules that we used to have to live by, where men had a job and you had to have kids by the time you were this age. And if you weren't, then there's something wrong with you. And those rules are gone, but we still use the system in boardrooms to try and understand each other. So it's time for a new way to look at people, a new way to understand each other.
To me, this is fascinating. So now we're not going to be using, demographics, and we're not going to be stereotyping people. We know that people have vast amounts of interests and vast amounts of beliefs and ways of living and concepts of, things in the future. You get on and you want to introduce a product to what would have normally been a demographic of people. And so now, how is it that we are connecting with a market? How is it that we are connecting with people's actual wants, desires, and what they actually are about? How do we do that? And I want to say this because I know Facebook was very interesting at one point. You could do interests. Now you can't. So we now have these algorithms that we are used to use that are not so available to us now. And I'm wondering, how then do we connect with people, and what's the sort of marketing that's here today? And I asked about like 5 questions all at once, so
I can't
answer them all at once.
lots of doors I can walk through. So here's the thing. We're never going to get over our addiction to data. It's just what we do. Companies are run by people who are watching spreadsheets and need to account for every dollar for their stakeholders. And even just like a mom and pop operation, we still need data. But what we're trying to map these days, and demographics fit that bill, like tick, 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 yay, demographic description, go spend money, good for you. The problem is what you're asking about here is how do we do this better? What we need to understand is how do you map something that is unmappable? This crazy, messy, goopy thing called human behavior, right? What you did yesterday has nothing to do with what you do tomorrow. You bought a pair of shoes on Amazon yesterday. Guess what Amazon wants you to do? They want you to buy more shoes. They keep sending you ads like, here's some shoes, here's some shoes. I just bought.
You've already bought.
I need the shoes. I just bought them. I got it. So, but that's how algorithms look at us. They're like, well, you did a thing. Clearly, you'll do it again. And sometimes maybe I do need another pair of shoes. But what I'm interested in and what I'm trying to get everybody to do is to start looking at data that's about why did you buy those shoes?
Interesting.
Why do you do things? And for that, we need to kind of dive into behavioral science and figure out what's the drivers behind the way humans make decisions. How do humans make decisions? So I got all kinds of ways I can tell you this, but let me tell you a fun little story. I use this when I'm giving a speech, so it sounds a little rehearsed because it is. It's called Three Friends in an Alley at Midnight. So 3 friends are out having a few drinks, haven't seen each other for a long time because pandemic, lockdown, restriction, whatever. They're at their favorite watering hole and they're having a few drinks, maybe a few drinks too many. And somebody goes, wow, you know what? The smart one, it's time to call this. We got an early morning tomorrow. We're going to be on the Coffee Break Show with Vickie Helm. We have to get out of here so that we're not hungover. So walking down the street and they're being noisy and loud like drunks are when they leave. Our voices all go up when we go outside after we've been drinking and they're yelling and having a good time and laughing. And then they turn a corner and suddenly there's a dark alley and they have to decide what they're going to do. Now, friend number one, the only thing we know for certain is friend number one's primary value in life is adventure, and thinks going down that dark alley is the best idea they ever heard. We're a little drunk. I love you guys. Let's go down the dark alley. This is amazing. How much fun is this going to be? Friend number two, the only thing we know for certain is that friend number two's primary value in life is security. Oh my God, why would we go down the dark alley? Let's go back to the bar, turn on the lights, call the police. Who knows what's waiting down there? We're drunk. I love you guys. Why would we do this? And friend number three, the only thing we know for certain is a primary value in life is friendship. Go down the dark, go back to, I don't care as long as we stick together because that's what matters, says friend number three, because we're a little drunk and I love you guys. Now, interesting thing about that story. The only thing we need to know to see how people behave when faced with a decision is what their values are. None of those folks had to check in with themselves and say, dark alley. Well, let's see. I'm a male millennial and I make $56,000 to $75,000 a year. And so therefore I'm going to decide this. Has nothing to do with it. It's all about our values. So behavioral scientists will back this up. You talk to psychologists, neurologists, sociologists, anybody. Neurology is a fun one. Our prefrontal cortex is our CEO of our life and takes all this incoming data. Should I go down that dark alley? Shouldn't I? And compares it against one set of filters, which is what are our core values, and makes decisions for us based on how this set of information is playing against our values. So we are neurologically hardwired. We can't help it but to run down whatever path we have to run down based on how it aligns with our core values. So the secret to understanding decisions for a target audience is what are their core values? We can get that, we're golden. Now we know what we need to do. Just give them more of whatever those values are. Go back to the dark alley. First guy, adventure. Like if there was some like spinning lights down there, and there was like a voice going, "This is the most fun alley in the world. You've never seen an alley like this before. That guy's going to be so hyped up about going dark." The other guy, "This is the safest alley in the world." Or there's lights that will go on with every step so that you're never going to trip and fall, and we've padded the street with rubber so you won't hurt yourself. I mean, you know what to say based on what they care about.
This is so interesting that you're saying this, because this particular data allows a person to be whoever they are. We don't judge whoever they are. We speak to them as they are. And I like that. That's what parents do with kids, right? So you have 3 kids, and when they ask a question, you answer it the way they would understand it. And sometimes that answering it is, or learning it or teaching and developing, is the connection between what they value or what's easy for them intrinsically. And so if one values art, or one values athleticism, or one values, we speak to them in, like, here's the difference between a baseball analogy and or a music analogy. And I loved the way that you segmented the audience, in that you were like, this person's value is this, and this. And when you were talking about it, I was like, oh, these emails go like this. These emails are said like that. These emails, now I'm talking to them, not at them. And that's such a powerful piece of information that you just shared.
Yeah. So it's like, once you know what the values of your target audience are, the shared ones, the ones they all have in common, that's like your North Star now. And if you just make every decision based on how can I get everybody to head in that same direction, we need to answer the phone, send out an email, brand ourselves, position ourselves, put social media assets out there that are aligned with that North Star, because that's what our target audience is looking for. Anything that gives them more of that stuff is what they're looking for. So that's
so interesting. That's so interesting that you said that. And I have a lot of curiosity at this point.
Okay.
Because the marketer in me just popped up. And what I want to know is, I want to know some of the techniques by which you do that, because is it always, the reason I write books is because my audience can find me. And if I have links in the books, those that are, love my message can go to get more details. But I know that what you just talked about, finding somebody's values and getting a group of people who have the same values, well, that's easy in some places and not quite so easy in others. And I'm wondering, how do you accomplish that?
Yeah. So again, couple answers. The first one is probably, we'll start this way. It's the most accurate one. You can hire my company, and we will do a specific custom profile for you based on our database.
Now, didn't I just make it easy for all you marketers out there? You can outsource this task.
So here's the thing that I didn't tell you about that database that we've collected. It's the first ever record of what everybody on Earth's core values are. We have this massive directory now for 180 countries of what makes people make decisions all day long about everything in their lives. And we can pull out of there for like a client like PayPal. We've worked with the United Nations Foundation. We've worked with all kinds of like 5-star school supply. I mean, they all say, David, what do our people care about? And we do a little bit of fancy hocus pocus stuff. And we go back to them and say, your people care about these things in common. Because here's the secret number. Whoa. After all that research, 750,000 surveys, 436 metrics, 180 countries, 152 languages, it all boils down to one number, 56. There are only 56 core human values. 56 things that make everybody on Earth do all the things they're ever going to do, who we are, how we're going to behave, where our emotions come from, our interests, our likes, our dislikes. They're all rooted in 56 things. And to put that into context, there's 88 keys on a piano keyboard. It's more complicated to learn how to play Happy Birthday on the piano than it is to learn how all humans on Earth are driven all day long. It's not that hard now that we've got the data set, right?
Incredible.
So our job when a company comes to us is to say, oh, for your target audience, they have these 4 that they all agree on. So go chase that stuff. And for your target audience, it's these 5 that they all agree on. So go chase those ones. That's it. Now,
Brilliant.
yeah, it makes it really simple. But you know what? We're really focused on helping the whole world change the way we look at people. So we give this away in other formats. I'll just quickly run through 2. One, and this sounds like another plug, but buy my book. If you buy my book on Amazon, anybody who's ever listed a book on Amazon knows this isn't much of a plug because you make about $1 a copy.
That's right.
So
I know that personally.
Yeah. So you're going to put $1 in my pocket if you go and buy a copy of the book. And in the book, there's a 10-question quiz. And you can use that quiz, send it out to whoever you want to understand, whatever your customers, your people who, like if you have a small little retail store and you don't have a CRM system, maybe you just like print the quiz out on pieces of paper and stuff it in everybody's shopping bag and offer them a free cupcake if they bring it back whatever you can do. Get as many people to answer the quiz as possible. Those 10 questions.
Is the quiz address in your book?
It's in the quiz itself is in the book. You can just right there for you. It's free for the taking. Well, it's $16 for the taking, right? And so you get the
Amazon people, Amazon, David Allison. Do you have that book so you can flash it up on the screen?
Backwards, but it's hold your computer up to a mirror so you
can. We all are the same age now.
The same age now.
I got to tell you, my executive producer saw you on another show, and I don't know what show it was on that she saw you on, but when it got to these 56 values, literally she took a page of notes from the time she was talking to you, and she was like, we got to have this guy on the Coffee Break Show, we got to have him. I'm like, okay. So and so it took us a while to get him booked, and he's here now. But here's the interesting thing, that list of 56 values was so important to her. And I'm not going to spoil because I want you to continue with that. I know what the number 1 value is, but it shifted everything in our company when we found this out, what you're going to be talking about. We shifted every way we talk to people, how we communicate with them, the way we write books, the way we're on shows, the way we do podcasts, all based off of this one single thing. Now, I want to let you know that we did this several months back. And the results of what David is going to be sharing with you. I want everybody, you get your notes now. If you're driving a car, relax. The notes will be here and you can go back to the show. But right now, if you're listening to the show, you want to write this down because it advanced our leads and clients. We had, I'm not kidding, 500-600 people in a matter of, I don't know, new people in a matter of a few months when we switched the message.
Love it.
The show, though, the show's popularity, when we implemented what we're going to be talking about, and I know what it is because of my executive producer, we have to change this. The simple turning got our show from 20,000 to 27,000. We're almost at 30,000 really now on the show. We're just this shy of being moved to Facebook Watch or something, all because of the ability to communicate in the way he's talking about. We are talking about 56 values. And if you're a marketer and you're not interested right now, if you're not saying, for $16, you're going to give me the 56 values that everybody is absolutely, these are the key values that they live by, you're crazy. And this to me is here, there's a quiz in there that's going to help you be able to target and find your audience for $16. I'm like, hey, I'll take 2 or 3 of them.
Oh my God. That's the best pitch I've ever had. Thank you.
Well, it's the truth. I mean, if you're going to spend even $1,000 on ads don't you think you should spend that $1,000 towards the people you actually want to work with, who want to work with you?
Based on what they care about most in the world?
Yeah.
It
Doesn't make sense to do something different for $16.
And
now imagine how many thousands of dollars you could save, get the book, and then hire him. Just imagine how much money you could save. All that access to all that data in 180 companies. I want to let you know my hair is on fire.
180 countries.
That's what I said, 180 countries.
I heard companies. Sorry, I didn't mean to correct.
180 countries. I mean, it doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing. This data is so interesting. I'm on my mind right now. I want to go into these core beliefs and values and things, but I'm thinking all of the products and things you could make to serve your client better if you just knew this.
It solves so many problems, from product development, HR, culture building, employee engagement, and yes, copywriting, branding,
everything.
If you know what people want to hear, just tell them that.
Yeah.
Doesn't get any simpler than that, because what we're doing now is we're gathering all this data about their demographics and about their past sales behavior and all this kind of stuff. And then we're going, I think we should try this. Instead of saying, and what we know they want to hear is this. So, okay, here's how we can give them that. It makes in the research world, they talk about the last mile, that you gather all your psychographic data, your demographic data, and then there's this intuition and guesswork that's required to, okay, how are we going to implement this? It's the last mile. Now, the last mile, if you also know what people care about, becomes like the last 100 yards. You still have to have intuition and guesswork, because I'm never going to know your client base. I'm never going to know your customers and prospects like you do. You still got to fill in the gap. That gap just got way smaller, though, if you know what people want to hear from you. So let me finish telling you about the book, though, because there is the 10-question quiz in there, and then the answers will point you to one of 10 chapters. And those 10 chapters, in each chapter, I've spilled the beans, everything we know about these 10 huge archetypes that exist in the data set, sort of 10 kinds of people in the United States and Canada. Now, new book in the fall does the same thing for the entire planet, because we've all...
Oh my gosh, this is incredible.
So for the cost of a book, you can get to the point. Now, here's the caveat why it's still, I like to say, it's like playing the piano with your fists, right? You're using value graphics, which is great. You're on the right instrument, but it's only the 10 archetypes. Now, in the data set, there's hundreds of thousands of profiles that could come out, but that's the expensive hire our company version. For the $16 version, you get to find which of those 10 big giant archetypes is most applicable. And here's everything we know about them, so you can go chase them and give them what they're listening for. And you can save this to the end. I'll leave this up to you, or I'll tell you now. There's a free way that you can get pretty darn close with 3, what we call the telltale questions. And if you just ask your people these questions, they'll tell you what they want to hear from you. So we can talk about that now, or you can save that as the big finale at the end.
I'm sorry, you cannot yank my chain. I gotta know now. I'm just like, somebody get me wait a minute, this is recorded. Yes, let's talk about it. I'm all ready to take notes. You guys should be taking notes.
There's 3 questions you need to ask. And we've developed these questions with our team of data people at a university that we work with. These questions are tried, tested, and true, and they will help you hear what your target audience, what your customers, whoever you ask the questions of, they'll help you hear what their values are. Now, this is one step less accurate than the quiz, but it's free, and you can start using it now. First question. Now, let's talk about how you get those questions out there. Just ask people. Next time you're doing a survey, chuck these questions in there. Next time you're on the phone with people, figure out a way to make this sound like just conversational, like, hey, what do you think of, like, cookie question for you? Like, just however you can get these questions, and then collect responses, collect. And over time, you'll see patterns emerge. You'll be like, oh, people are all answering that one this way. they're trying to tell you they'll all have different ways of saying it, but they're trying to tell you what their values are. So here's the questions. First one, why do you go to work every day?
Interesting.
Why do you go to work? Is it because you're trying to support your family? Is it because you're passionate about what you do? Is it because it's how you can't imagine doing anything else? People are going to have all kinds of ways of telling you, but you're watching for the patterns from as many people as you can ask. Second question, you just won the lottery. Why would you give away half? Now, initially, you're going to get answers like, oh, I'll give it to cancer because no, but why? Why would you give away half your lottery winnings? You're going to start to hear the actual
taxes came to my mind. I was like, lottery winnings. What is it? 40% tax?
Exactly. Something like that. And then the last one is my favorite one. You get to write a letter to yourself 10 years ago. Your 10 years ago self. What would you say and why? I don't really care what you say, frankly. It's just a way to get the question into their heads. What would you say, but why those things? So you see the pattern here. Why go to work?
Yes.
Why play half your lottery winnings? And why would you say those things to yourself from 10 years ago?
Interesting.
Why gets you down to the value that's driving that behavior, right? It's Simon Sinek for the last 20 years has been running around going, why? Find your why. He's made a lot of money on one word. He's a smart man. So what we've done is add data to the why. So if you can start to get those whys out and you hear the people talking about their job, it's all about their family maybe. The people talking about the lottery, it's like they want to leave a legacy behind. And the people talking about the 10 years ago letter, because I wish I'd known that because it would have made me a better person. You're going to start to hear those values. And then what you can do is compare what you're hearing against a list of those 56 values. And you'll be like, oh, they're all talking about this one and this one. Those are my values.
Wow. This is so interesting because one of the cool things that I know about people taking quizzes, we all love self-discovery. We all love to learn something about ourselves. And I bet most people don't know what values actually drive them. Yeah. And being able to put a poll out and say, what are your drivers helps you connect with them, but it helps them connect with them as well. And I think that's a double win for anybody there. The person who's receiving the questions is going to respect you more for asking those questions.
Oh, for sure.
They're going to trust you more because you ask those questions specifically. Sounds already like you care about them.
Because we spend whenever we ask our customers questions, what do? We say two things. We say, how old are you? Yeah. How much money do you make?
We start with demographic questions.
Like, who cares? Like, so you find out 70% of your audience is female. Does that mean you make everything pink? Like, what are you going to do with that? Like, it doesn't mean anything, right? So demographic questions. And then we ask psychographic questions like this. Do you love my product? How much do you love my product? Do you love my product enough that you've told other people about my product? Would you buy more of my product? You want to know about my product, me. We never ask them about them.
Yeah.
We never say, how do you feel about the world, my friend? What keeps you up at night? Why would you give away half your lottery winning? We never ask those questions. We only care about their demographics and what they think about me. We're very selfish when it comes to sending out customer surveys. We don't tend to demonstrate that we actually care about them and want to have a relationship with them based on what they care about. And if we can get there, here's the big story. Here's the really big story. If we carry on doing things the way we have been, we're using demographics to understand each other. We touched on this earlier. We're using stereotypes to understand people. And it may seem harmless, and maybe based on this conversation, people start to understand it's not really working all that well. But there's a much bigger problem here. Because if we keep looking at people based on, let's pick on age, we keep saying millennials, X, boomers, whatever, and then attaching stereotypes to what we think we know about people, that trickles down into the way we look at everybody and the way we think about each other.
True.
And that leads to ageism.
That's true.
All the other demographics do the same thing. They lead to stereotypes, which fuel racism, sexism, homophobia. You know the rest of the list.
Yep.
Because we keep looking at the world with these demographic goggles on instead of saying, I don't care what you look like on the outside. What's going inside your heart, buddy? That's what we should be doing when we try and understand each other.
The content of our character.
If we can get rid of this incessant insistence on using demographics to understand each other, we're going to do way better at work. Going to get way better results. We're going to get way more things to happen.
Yeah.
And I think we can make the world a little bit of a happier place too.
I agree with that so much.
It's a double whammy. It's a twofer, right?
Yeah. It's so self-proclaiming to be able to stop looking at stereotypes, because when you stop looking at stereotypes, you stop looking at yourself as a stereotype and you start valuing you. The second you value others and value you more, you suddenly have created that better world he's talking about. And if you're going to be a marketer, if you're going to be somebody who wants to serve a group of people, then that's the first thing that I think would be the most beneficial. If you could get your consumer to look at themselves differently in a kinder, gentler way, they're going to want to do business with you. If they can see that you're connected to what they value, and not in a fake way, I mean in an authentic way. You can serve an audience that has the values you have and they have really well. You don't have to pretend that you have their values or be a Republican when you're really a Democrat, or be a Democrat when you're really a Republican. Whatever those things are, if you could do it authentically in that way and say, this is the thing that I value too, that creates it. It's like, even hearing you say it, David, I felt like this gentleness come down, and just, oh God, I feel more trusting. I don't feel so suspicious. I don't have so much cynicism. I'm like, okay, there's a new, more valuable way to connect with your client. Stop using demographic, because it's killing your business.
It is. And listen, here's how powerful this is. Let's take it out of data and marketing and just talk about it like humans for a moment. If you understand what people's core values are, what drives their lives, what they wake up every morning thinking about and fall asleep wondering if they've managed to find more of in the course of that day, then what you're doing is you're reaching deep down inside their hearts in a resonant way and speaking to them like a trusted friend. And that gets you to a place where relationship marketing is really solid on core values that truly, not ones we made up or think they might like, or like, I think our people like environmentalism, so let's use it. No, what do they really care about deep down inside their hearts? Now you're their friend, and now you're a welcome part of their day. Now you're someone that they want to hear from and that they can't wait to have a coffee with. It kind of gets you to the level of instinct, so that when it's time to choose A versus B, my best friend who knows me so well, I'm exaggerating to make my point, is A, and then this other company that might be $10 cheaper is B. I'm going with my friend who knows me.
That's right.
It's an instinctual response at that point.
And so that's so interesting. And I want to tell you that when our executive producer watched him on whatever show that was, they were so riveted, so excited. I think it was 3-4 days in a row that this conversation came up, this conversation about how it is that we connect with people, and how it is like a lot of stuff got revamped. So even no matter where you are in your business, if you've always done what you've always done, and even though that always done has worked for you in the past, and maybe you're, not scaling, but stable, and your income is stable, and you're looking at, how can I reach not more people, but more deeply to the people that I'm connecting with? It's the deeply that's there. And David, I just want to ask you, Let's say you're a coach, a consultant, somebody with a small business. Not, I know you've worked with the United Nations or something like that. I mean, big companies around the world. What could you do? What would you say for these size small businesses? How do you help them, and
Yeah.
how could they connect with you? Because I know right now there are a bunch of people chomping at the bit to talk to you, and they're like, don't let this guy off this show. I want to ask this question, this question, this question. How can they connect with you? What do you do?
Well, what do I
How
do,
do you,
or
how do you
how do
serve?
they
How do
connect
you
to me?
serve
Yeah,
them?
how do they connect? So you can connect to me on my website, valuegraphics.com.
It's in
We
the scroll. If you're driving, relax. It's on the show notes.
don't worry about it, and it's easier.
Right
It's just like graphics, except it's value graphics, valuegraphics.com. And if you go to the tab there, that's called what do we call it? I think it's called news, which is maybe not the best word in the world, because really what we do is we just keep sharing data there that we think is interesting. We self-publish a bunch of stuff and just try and help people get this values-driven lens on and ditch the old demographic lens. So we push out lots of information there. We push out lots of if I have to pick a social channel, LinkedIn's my home base. So we're constantly sharing data there. My speaking engagements are a constant source of new data, because every time I talk to a group, I bring custom data for that group and say, hey, I know who you guys want to influence. Here's the data on what you need to say to the people you're interested in. So then I get on LinkedIn and I share that information too. So there's always information coming out. Here's a website that we'll have to put up somewhere so people can grab it. If you go to valuegraphics.online /global, slightly different. It's not valuegraphics.com. Here goes another float plane. If you go to
value graphics
.online
/global, got it.
That takes you to a blog that has a chart of all 56 values for the world, rank ordered in order. So you can use that as your master list now. And if you ask those 3 questions and you start to hear those things bubbling up, those repeat kinds of answers, go check it against that chart. And earlier in the show, you mentioned...
Thank you for sharing that, by the way.
Yeah, that's why we do it. We want everybody to start using values to think about each other. You mentioned the one value that I talked about that changed what you do. And I think it's the most important value in the United States of America. Okay, so remember, this isn't just me making stuff up. This is data. The data says the most important value to the people of the United States of America, that the most people in that country are chasing and looking for anything that can give them more of this, is belonging.
That's right.
Want to belong. Now, let's talk about how that translates into your business. The tone of emails that you send out.
That's right.
Should be the way you talk to people who belong to your organization, not the way that you talk to people who are outside of your organization. The way you position things should be about, we're doing this cool thing together, aren't we? Anything you can do to send out little cues and triggers to make people feel like they belong, and that you're not serving them. They're not there for you. You guys are all in this in one big happy gang, and you're all... I bet you have some listeners old as me to remember the sitcom Cheers. So the character Norm would walk into the bar, and what happens? Everyone goes, Norm. Norm knows he belongs there. He's not feeling like, whoa, this is, I don't know if this is my place or not. I don't know if I belong here. So people who want belongingness just want to feel like they fit in, like they know what's going on around them. Here's an interesting thing about the American population versus the Canadian population. I'm Canadian. I'm your neighbor next door. Number 1 in America is belonging. Number 2 is family. In Canada, it's the reverse, family and then belonging.
Wow.
Here's how I think this is playing out right before our eyes right now. In the United States, belonging is more important than family. The tribe you've chosen to be part of is more important than your biological family. Does that sound familiar? When we see Uncle Sally and Aunt Ted, no. Aunt Sally and Uncle Ted, or well, who cares? It's a non-binary world. They can all have whatever.
That's right. They're they, them.
Members are being disinvited from Thanksgiving because they've chosen the wrong tribe. They're
Right.
not red.
You're right. You're right.
Is less important than belonging.
Vaxxed or unvaxxed. Wow. That I'm just breathing that in for a moment. That is such a powerful statement. That is how powerful a sense of belonging can be.
And
isn't that interesting?
I mean, not to get all political here, I'm going to keep this neutral, but you have an ex-president who very wisely, perhaps, identified a group of people who did not feel like they belonged.
Yep.
And he made them feel, for the first time in a very long time, like they belong. Now he can, as he famously said, shoot someone in Times Square and they'll still vote for me. They belong to that tribe and they're so loyal because he respected their values and talked to them.
So interesting. And it's like another key area of that. That's how sports gains their audiences. We have teams that cities own that belong to the people, and people belong on that team. Like, you know, they're like fans of that, and they're diehard.
And the reason they feel like they belong is they all know the same song.
That's
or they all know when they wave the towel, or they all know when they're supposed to scream a thing, or hear a noise, or make a, you know, they have rituals that indicate I'm an insider here.
Yeah.
I know how to
so interesting. You know, it's so interesting that I was looking at it and thinking MLMs have that down. They have that really down. You can be a diamond or a whatever it is. I don't know much about MLMs. I just know they have names of groups of people. So as you escalate in their organization, you become more prideful at the name of the group you belong to, you know, that escalation. It's used so much. God, that is so empowering what you just said. It's so empowering because it's like, it's also, you have to be ethical with this. Because it's a lot, that sense of belonging is a lot of power. If you can speak, if you know how to speak to them, you can speak to them manipulatively, just like you said, you know, I can kill somebody in Times Square and they'll still vote for me, and or, you know, serve them really at the highest level so that you're not manipulating people. And that sense of belonging is so strong in this country, even at number 2 in Canada. And I'm wondering, David, the sense of belonging, because that's the thing that we shifted. We shifted our languaging in our marketing, our languaging and how we do everything into more of a culture of belonging, because in my opinion, one mind is better than two. And conversations that you can have with a group of people that have like-mindedness as it goes out into the world spreads. So we're like, oh my God, we could spread more love, more kindness, more this, more that. You can spread that, or you can spread more dissension, more this. There's positive intimacy and negative intimacy as well. And that's the whole thing, David. This is a very tipping point. It's so much more than I think I can express in words. The power behind what you're saying or what you're doing or what you're targeting instead of demographics.
It's
world changing.
What being human is.
Yeah.
We can't choose to follow our values or not. It's what being human is. Yeah. And there's all kinds of research to back this up. And also just all kinds of common sense that we run around all day long chasing the things we value and trying to avoid anything that might be bad for the things that we value. So it's key as a marketer to understand how to be a values-driven strategist, a values-driven copywriter, a values-driven CEO. You need to understand what people value, or else you're guessing. And here's the other thing I want to say. Companies we run across sometimes who we know are not going to be a great fit for us. They say, "Oh, we already know what our values are." I go, "Oh, really? How did you come up? How'd you come up with that?" Well, we polled the staff, and then we brought our smartest people together in the boardroom, and we decided. So I call this 6 vice presidents and a box of donuts values. Where they sat down for an afternoon and they went, well, we asked all the staff what's important, and they, I'm sure from the depths of their hearts, not thinking that their boss might look at what they, so the thing, asking the staff is a stupid way to figure out what your values are, because everyone's going to lie when the boss asks them what the values are. Right? They're going to like, what does he want to hear me say? What's he trying to, what's
so true.
And so then you put 6 vice presidents in a room with a box of donuts, and they say, well, our chairman's been yakking on for months now about sustainability, so we better make that one. And everybody out there is talking about DEI right now, so inclusivity better be one. And then they come up with this list of values that seem to make everybody happy. Then they make those little aluminum letters on pegs, and they put them up on the wall behind the receptionist, so they have a nice little drop shadow when the light's just right. And they go, done, values, all taken care of. Instead of saying, this is a tool. Let's figure out statistically, for real, what the values of our customers and our employees are. And then let's use this as a way to guide the business and be a North Star. So we're constantly delivering on what our friends want from us at that deep-rooted, inside their hearts kind of way. That's the way forward for companies running around right now trying to figure out the intersection of purpose and profit. Well, the way to get there, it's a path that's lit by values, will take you to that intersection of purpose and profit.
Oh my God, this has been so enlightening. I just want to ask a couple of I want to make a request, actually. And we're getting to the top of the show. And I want to know if you could say to a business starting out, not something that's already established, starting out. And so it's thinking about, its plan and its way forward and everything else. What would you tell them about their marketing message before they start? Like 3 things they should do before they create their marketing message or, discover their values. Like in a company that already has customers that is already going, okay, well, we're going to switch from this demographics to value-based marketing, and we're going to poll our tribe. And if you don't have a tribe, where would you start? What things would you do?
Well, you're going to do some kind of product testing. You're going to try and find some people who think your thing that you're making, your service, whatever, is interesting. And then what we tend to do with that information is we quickly write down what their demographics are. We go, cool, now we know who our target audience is. So as you're going around doing that, fine. We still need to know the demographics because media still gets sold that way. You still need that as a wayfinding system in many situations. That's all great. But as we've discussed, it doesn't tell you who those people are, just what they are. So in addition, ask those 3 questions. Ask the 3 telltale questions that we went over earlier. I think that's probably job 1. And I see so many startups who go into the process saying to themselves, my audience is Generation Z. Like they've decided that because they think what they're doing is going to appeal to Generation Z or Generation Z for my American friends. So if you already have a predetermined idea about what the demographics of your target audience are, please discard that until you find out. Here's the thing. We think about a loaf of bread. The way we think right now is like we slice the bread like this and we go, I want 18 to 24-year-old males who are college educated and whatever. We take those slices. So there's my target audience. Instead, let's slice the loaf of bread this way and say, what are the values of my target audience? And they'll connect across all those demographic layers. And oftentimes when you do that, what you're going to find out is you have a baguette, that you have a much larger slice going this way than if you just put your blinders on and say, well, this is just for people this age or that age. Like, why? Are you going to say no to a boomer who walks in and wants to buy your high-tech product just because they don't fit your age category? You'll be surprised. You're going to be like, how'd that guy find us? It's because their values are aligned with yours, but you're ignoring them. Who knows how many other boomers are out there that might want to also buy your thing if you would just start talking to them instead of ignoring them because they don't fit your idea of who your target audience might be. Go for the baguette, people. Go for the baguette.
That's some of the best stuff. I want to talk about we're going to go a little overtime because I can.
Yeah, and I'm so what where we are.
Because I'm in charge of the button. No, what I want to be able to do is be honest with people and say, when we talked as a team. So if you're right now a blogger, you have a show, you have a channel on YouTube, you have everything. I know that what they say to grow your business is give them information. You pick the demographic and you say, oh, they want to know this topic, this topic, this topic. Maybe they ask you a question and you do a show on that, etc. But when we flipped from being worried about what you were learning and what demographic we had to how do we connect with our audience? How do we actually talk to them in such a way that there is belonging, that there is this kind of group of people that are like the Coffee Break Show and the Success Secrets for Business, Family, and Life channel? This is the place where I belong, because this whole system that we did bumped us up. I told you guys in the beginning of the show when he was talking about that one thing, our executive producer came in and said 3 days worth of seeing this guy on a different show saying, we're going to change this and we're going to do this and we're going to have this. You can connect with people on that level based on their values. Your show will grow. I promise you. If you want to scale out your podcast, you want to scale out your live shows, you want to scale out your channel, it's not about constantly serving knowledge-based stuff. It's also about providing that sense of belonging, and that sense of belonging with the people that you're working towards or listening to. That sense of belonging grows an audience a lot faster, and it's a lot less expensive. I promise you that. David, I want to say, yes, say it.
Can I say one more thing? I want to just add to that, because the information that you share with people, here's the way the values help you with that. You want to tell people it's the Coffee Break Show. So we're going to talk about, I'm going to be a coffee manufacturer. I'm going to try and tell people why coffee is amazing. Cool. There's 100 ways you can say that. But if you know that the most important value in the life of your target audience is belonging, and the second most important value is environmentalism, well, now you know how to say that coffee.
That's right.
Right? It's not like, well, coffee's good because energy. No, it's coffee's good because our coffee is environmentally harvested in a very responsible way. And the belongingness piece, it's once you start buying our coffee, you're part of a huge organization of people that includes the planters, the pickers, the harvesters, the roasters. We're all in this together trying to make the best cup of coffee in the world.
So, see, that's beautiful. And that's how we talk about it. What I say is the Coffee Break Show. I bring the best experts from around the world so they can help you make a difference in your business, family, and life in a good, sustainable coffee kind of way. That to me is a big deal. You guys, I want to let you know that if you're starting out, if you have a business, if you're doing this, you want to go to the most powerful way of targeting your audience, which is valuegraphics.com. Valuegraphics.com. If you're driving, you're listening to this live, relax. It's going to be in the show notes. It's scrolling across the screen. You can get a hold of David. His favorite platform, I think he said, was LinkedIn. David Allison with 2 L's, Allison. He is our neighbor from the north and in Canada. I just want to say thank you for being on this. This was such an enlightening, fun conversation. I'm telling you, I'm literally on fire right now. I know why my EP was like, woo! This is such an incredible conversation.
Thank you.
So I also want to say valuegraphics.online/global will give you the 56 the 56 values that are listed there from 180 different countries. This data has been collected. I think it's amazing what you're doing. And I want to thank you for being on the Coffee Break Show today. I don't even, I can't wait to figure out how to invite him back already. But thank you for being here with us today.
Happy to be here. Thanks so much for the opportunity to chat. I had a great time too. My coffee's done, so I think the show's over.
All right, man. We'll see you guys later. Talk to you soon.